let's turn right into that next topic of conversation, which is the latest in the feud between President Trump and the Fed. Last week, Fed Chair Jerome Powell said that the Justice Department launched a criminal investigation into both him and the Federal Reserve. What is your reaction to that? He called the move unprecedented. It certainly is.
I have a couple of responses. One is it is unprecedented, and I think I can't make a judgment on the cost overruns of the building because we obviously aren't involved with that. But I do find it a little hard to believe that he might be so knowledgeable about that he would have something that might be a criminal action that would have occurred. I would think staff members would be doing that. But putting that aside for a minute, Chair Powell has until May to be in that role. Um, it- there's great newsworthy stories about the possible replacements to Chairman Powell. President Trump is going to get a person that he wants that thinks like him in that role. I'm not sure I understand why we picked this time to have that battle now. All it does is get people unnerved. It forced the Federal Reserve Chairman, which has never happened, to go on television and talk about this, which again roils the markets. Chaos is not good for a smooth moving economy.
It was really surprising seeing Chair Powell talking about this. He said during that speech that the issue is about, quote, whether the Fed will be able to continue to set interest rates based on evidence and economic conditions, or whether instead monetary policy will be directed by political pressure or intimidation. What do you make of that statement?
I think it's a powerful statement, and I think that's what it comes down to. I mean, there is no question that, President Trump is a real estate developer. He's never met an interest rate he doesn't want lower. I certainly understand that. I'll go so far as to say, and I'm not an economist, but I'd like to see interest rates a little lower. I understand their worry about inflation, but I think inflation is enough under control where you could drop interest rates and move some things along in the real estate market and drop mortgage rates. But I don't think you do it with a hammer. I think you let the process play itself out. I don't think he's helping himself or his cause or by extension the American economy by doing that.
President Trump certainly isn't the first American president here to be annoyed with the Fed chair for not slashing interest rates. I mean, this is certainly the first one who has a criminal investigation opened up against him by the DOJ. So do you think that when there is a new Fed chair, they're going to be eyeing this position and thinking, if I don't slash interest rates, if I don't do what President Trump wants, I could be the target of his ire?
To be very honest with you, I don't see how they wouldn't feel that way, right? I mean, there's evidence to support that. The two leading candidates, one now, since one of the Kevin seems to be dropping back because President Trump, as he spoke about last week in the news cycle, talked about how he likes him to be in his present role, Kevin Hassard. Um, Kevin Warsh, I don't know him. He's a very credible person. He's an excellent choice, but and I don't see any indication that he's backing away from the job. But I can't help thinking that it isn't on their mind in some way, shape, or form.
The Supreme Court tomorrow is hearing arguments on President Trump's firing of Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook. He tried firing her in August of last year. The Supreme Court let her remain in her job until they hear these arguments and let this play out. And Powell will be at that hearing. What do you make of him there? What message do you think that sends?
I think it shows that he's engaged and concerned about what's happening, and he wants to understand it fully, especially considering the fact that he may be looking at a criminal investigation himself. Um, I I honestly don't think the Supreme Court will rule in the president's favor. I think there's plenty of evidence to suggest that he can't have that level of control that he's trying to have. It'd be one thing if she was indicted or there was some kind of evidence to suggest that she did wrongdoing and looked like she was going to be found guilty or was found guilty, but we're not even close to that.
Do you think Powell will stay on as a governor because his time as chairman is almost up? It'll be up in May, but he can stay on the Fed as governor until 2028. Do you think he'll do that?
I think now he certainly will do that. I'm not sure what he was thinking prior to this, but I think now he will. He comes across as a very scholarly, gentlemanly, almost grandfatherly like person. But folks that I know that know him, he comes from the private equity world. This is a tough, steely guy with he's highly intelligent and he's worked very hard at his job. And I think there's a legacy issue here, and I think he doesn't want to be looked at as somebody that was bullied out the door. So yeah, I think he stays. And I think again, if you're President Trump and you want a board that represents your feelings, not being so independent, but your feelings about things, all he did was guarantee that he has one less chair to fill by now Chair Powell, then former Chair Powell staying on board. I think he'll stay.
We're talking about the independence of the Fed here. We're talking about potentially more tariffs when trade agreements were already put in place. We're talking about the United States acquiring Greenland. And what we should be talking about really is affordability, because that's a large reason why President Trump won in 2024. Americans still say that that's the top issue that they're facing. I mean, where do you think all of this fits in the affordability conversation?
I think your point's excellent. It doesn't, right? It doesn't. If anything, it's having the opposite effect. It's making it more difficult for young folks to buy houses because prices aren't coming down on the real estate and mortgage rates aren't declining. Two things that need to happen in order for young families to afford homes. So that's number one. Number two, while inflation has dropped, food prices are up. I do the shopping in my family on Saturdays. I mean, thankfully, I'm in a position where it doesn't really matter, but I notice. I noticed that I last week I spent 200 and this week it's 225. So you see it. So yeah, I think there should be some effort towards that as opposed to a lot of this other. I think it's basically distractions, to be honest with you. That's not what they should be doing. It's distractions.